you might be disconnected from your passion. You might feel as though your fire has been extinguished in your life. You don't have the drive, the desire, the energy anymore. Maybe because you overcommitted or you committed outside of your area of competence, or it's because you haven't identified your passion before to know what it is you should be pursuing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Discover Your Spiritual Gifts is a new online Bible study we have created here at Place Ministries to help people discover their spiritual gifts and meditate on how to understand them and see them in their own lives. For almost 30 years, my dad has sat down with thousands of people around the world and heard an overwhelming desire for believers to not just know their gifts, but to understand them. This study is for them. This study is for you, to equip your people and to encourage your people, and to show them how God has been, can be, and will continue to use them through their spiritual gifts.
Hey y'all, welcome to the My Place podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm your host, Mary McSwain, and I'm joined, as I normally am, by my dad, Jay McSwain.
And again, it is good to be here with you today.
Good to be here with you too. I haven't seen you since our huge snowstorm that we had this weekend.
Yeah, we have snow right outside my office. Well, that's ice, right?
I think it would be considered ice.
Yeah, it was big. The streets didn't even get enough on them. But yeah, we had a big snowstorm.
We did. For those of y'all who live in more northern climates.
Or you're watching this in the middle of July at the beach.
Yes, not a big deal. But for us Georgians, snow is a huge deal. The audio engineer that I've been working with this past month for a special project we've been working on, he's from Chicago. And so it's funny, our different reactions to it, where he's really used to snow. And for us, it's a huge deal. And did Macy and Will send you any videos of Jack this weekend?
I did see some videos of Jack this weekend.
So
yes.
Jack is my cousin's son. So basically my cousin, he's like 5 years old. And I had played outside with him for a little bit. I was getting a little cold because I don't have the fortitude that the 5-year-old does in the cold. And I look out my window because I heard this almost like helicopter sound with like laughter and screaming children accompanied by it. And I look outside, and Will, their dad, had gotten this little blue plastic pool that can fit like one person. It's like a kiddie pool. And they were using that as a sled to sled through the iced over pastures and the hills. And it was very creative. It sounded like it was a great time.
Well, and what was really cool is our little friend Joseph Kimbrell, who lives in Tennessee, and they live on a big piece of property, and it's a long way from the street to their house. And their driveway, I don't know, it's probably 4/10 of a mile, and it goes down. And they were sledding down it, he and his sister, and the squealing too. So
now, did they have a real sled?
I don't think it was a real sled.
Oh,
I couldn't see it well enough in the video, but it was going pretty well. So yeah.
You know, I've heard a lot of stories in the last couple days from the Kimbrells, from Macy and Will, that being a story I watched play out in my backyard. A couple of my friends at church, Brooke sent me a video of her kids, and kids love snow days, but I don't know if kids or adults love them more, because for kids, it's especially for us in Georgia who don't get snow a lot, and typically it's just a day off of school and a little bit of ice. It's a day where you just get to do whatever you want. And for adults, I think it's so amazing for adults, which I'm learning becoming one, is it's a day away from the world where you get to rest and you're not missing anything because everything else is canceled. Everything else is put on hold.
Yes.
And I think that's why everybody loves it, because you're not missing out on anything, but also because everyone is normally so busy. They're so hurried. And that's ironically what we're going to talk about today, which the timing of our snowstorm, ironic in that way. But in ministry, in the Christian life, in culture today, people's seasons of life, they're so busy. They're characterized by busyness, exhaustion, fatigue. And it seems nowadays to be the norm, not the exception to the rule, that's just how life is. That's the norm. Why do you think that this is? And in your perspective, your vantage point, is this how it's always been?
I think that people have always been busy, But the reason that I would say that busyness, I'll use the word exhaustion and all that, is more, I guess, heightened today. People are more aware of it today. I put this on here for our thing. Is this right here?
Your phone.
It is exhausting. This little thing right here, as good as it can be, it is exhausting. Talking about stress and anxiety and burnout and everything. So this morning, because I knew we were doing this podcast today, I leave the house a little bit before 6 to go down to Truist Park, where I do a Bible study with the front office in the Atlanta Braves. And I decided to do something. I didn't turn my phone on. And I didn't look at it. I didn't have any music on, nothing. Do you know how peaceful I felt?
I bet it was incredible.
And when I drove here today, from there to the office here, I didn't turn it on. I didn't listen to anything. Peaceful. So people have always had stress, always have had burnout. That's always been part of it. But right now, something that burns us out is with us 24/7. My phone dinged last night, in the middle of the night. You know what I did? Picked it up and looked at it. And it was just stress. So I think that's what's different today. And everybody that's watching this, you're saying, no, Doug, give us something that we don't know. Well, hang on, we'll do that.
I think it's interesting that even in scripture and in culture today, because scripture is living and active, it's always applicable because the messages in it are timeless. We as Christians, as people, we guard against two extremes of either idleness or busyness. And there's evidence in scripture because it warns you against both of these things. In Psalm 127:2, it says, "In vain you rise up early and stay up late, toiling for food and eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves." So it's saying in vain, you're rising up, you're getting up early, you're going to bed late. Maybe nowadays it's because of our phone that we're doing that. We're staying up late scrolling. In Psalm 46:10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." We're commanded to be still because so often we aren't still because we're so hurried, we're so busy, we're running around, or we think we're being still, but our minds aren't still because, again, your example, we're scrolling. And so while our bodies are still, our minds are not. So on the one hand, we're guarding against busyness and toiling in vain, but on the other hand, we're guarding against idleness. In Proverbs 13:4, it says, "The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied." In 1 Timothy 5:13, it says, "They get into the habit of being idle and going about from house to house, and not only do they become idlers, but also busybodies who talk nonsense." I thought it was an interesting transition made there from idlers to busybodies. And I think in our pursuit of such futile things in life, like our phone that distracts us, futile things can lead to both idleness and busyness, to us being busybodies. And it contributes to this experience we have of burnout, of overcommitment. And that's really what I wanted us to talk about today.
Can I say one thing? Because you said about busyness and boredom. So we got the two B's, right? Busyness, boredom. So interesting. Right before we begin setting up today to do this recording, I had a friend call me that is in his mid-70s, and in the denominational life that I've been a part of, he would be, in the last 40 years, one of the most prominent men in that denomination, in our denomination, and was over a very large organization, pastored many large churches, was a speaker all over the country for 70, 80,000 Promise Keepers, were 70, 80,000 men. He was in high demand, mid-70s now. And I was asking him about some things that he's doing at our church. And he began to talk about it and is enjoying it. But he said, I wish that I had some more opportunities, not all year long like I used to be, but where I had some things in the spring and the fall more than I do now. And I started thinking, all of us are looking, and I've used this analogy before when it comes to burnout. All of us are looking how to get on that treadmill and run at the pace that doesn't exhaust us, but makes us feel good. And I don't know. I think snow days, things like that, we've been on it probably faster than we should, and it gives us that ability to slow without, having to get off but it goes slower. So boredom, busyness, we're all trying to find what is the right pace to live life at.
And I think sometimes people put the level at which their treadmill goes a little too fast, and they think that it will fulfill them, but in reality, it will burn them out. And that's a little bit of what we're talking about today, because in the place assessment, in the C part of the place assessment, which stands for connecting passion with ministry, in this session, people take time to understand what passion is, where it originates, what it means to them, but also how to guard their passion. And we talk about guarding your passion because if you have something, you must guard it, because that means you also could lose it. And we spend time identifying things that can disconnect someone from their passion. In other words, what can diminish or extinguish the fire of their passion that is ablaze, that has gone from a spark to a fire. But if they overcommit or experience some of these other links that can disconnect them from their passion, that fire can go out and that spark can die. Two of the things that we look at in that session of links that can disconnect you from your passion are overcommitment and what we call the Peter principle. So what does overcommitment look like in somebody's life?
Well, I think the things that we think of naturally with overcommitment is we think of too many responsibilities, too many places that you have to be, too many decisions that you have to make. It could be, again, too many times that you allow this to control your life. That could be overcommitment that can cause burnout. And I do have one more, but I'm going to wait to another question I think you're going to give me to tell you what I believe is one of the great, great, great causes of burnout that is, well, I'll save the answers.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well, we have to work through the questions. So go ahead. You were going to ask me something.
We will get to this a little bit later, but I think it's interesting that sometimes good intentions can still lead to overcommitment. And we'll talk about why that is, because even with the best of intentions, you can overcommit, which can lead to burnout. And one of the values of the place tool is that it can protect you from the best of intentions leading to overcommitment, because it shows you where your intentions and where your time should be geared towards, should be given to, and that helps you guard against that experience of overcommitment. That's one of the things that can disconnect you from your passion. The second one is the Peter principle. Tell us a little bit about what the Peter principle is.
The Peter principle is when people are promoted from their highest level of competence to one level above that, they hit their highest level of incompetence. And that can be either with people or with tasks. Let me explain that. So some people, they're good working one-on-one. Some people are good one with few. Some people are good one with many. Let's take speaking. Some people are good teaching really small groups. Some people thrive in large groups where they feed off of the energy. So the Peter principle, you can get in situations to where, and people, let's take a salesperson. They're great at sitting down one-on-one with someone. But boy, when you make them a sales manager and then they have to start managing, and it's not as much just conversation off the cuff, but it's a lot more administrative, then they can burn out. Some people, and I love this, sometimes I've seen this in the many years of working with churches, is that people want to limit. Well, they can only do one thing in our church because we don't want them to burn out. Well, you know what? Some people do better if they're doing 2, 3, 4 things, juggling a lot of things. For instance, when I'm not doing but one task, I find that I burn out because it doesn't energize me. But when I'm doing 2 or 3 or 4, I'll give you an example. This is great. When I used to be in the building business, which our family still builds houses, when I was in the building business with my family, if I was building 5 houses at one time, my quality was horrible. I hardly ever came in budgets, and my time was pathetic. If I had 35 houses going in 3 different neighborhoods, my quality was stellar. My budgets were always under, and my times were just off the charts quick in getting those houses. I didn't do good. I don't know whether I became lazy, if I did, whatever it is. So you can't always say with the Peter principle, one size fits all when it comes to either are you good with a lot of people, one person, a few people? Are you good with one task, 2 tasks, or many tasks? But that's the Peter principle.
The best way I was able to wrap my mind around it when I first walked through this in the place curriculum is to think of someone who's juggling. To simplify it to any scenario is that someone might be, I can't juggle.
And if you or I could juggle, we'd be showing it right now, but.
Exactly, but I can't juggle. I'm still working on that. It's out of my abilities and giftedness right now. But some people are really competent juggling 3 balls at a time, and they're really competent. So you assume because they can juggle 3, surely they can juggle 4. So you throw the 4th ball in there and they can juggle 4. So you assume surely if they can do 4, they can do 5.
Oh, can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be really cool when we get this ready to go, and if we have a little B-roll of somebody that can juggle.
Oh, we should.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
We should note to our producer to add in someone who can juggle. But so as someone who can juggle is juggling 4 balls at one time, you assume if they can do 4, surely they can do 5. But as soon as you throw 5 balls in there, that's they went from their highest level of competency to their highest level of incompetency. And then they don't just drop the 5th ball, they drop all the balls.
All of them.
And I think that's fitting of people's lives when they add one thing past their level of competency, then it's not just that area of their life that hurts. A lot of other areas in their life get affected as well. I was doing some research on the Peter principle this week, and it's interesting you talked about salespeople getting promoted from a sales rep to a manager position. There was a study, and I think it was 2018, that followed 50,000 sales reps at various companies in America over a 6-year span. And about 1,500 of those sales reps got promoted to managers. And basically, to summarize the study, the data showed that the best salespeople were more likely to, 1, be promoted, and 2, perform poorly as managers. And so they acknowledged, of course, as the study went on, that's what they found at large. But they did acknowledge, 1, there are exceptions to that rule. 2, they found the most successful promotions occurred when these top performers approached both their positions collaboratively. So when they took the advice and insight of other people, when they didn't have this go at it alone mentality in all of my positions. And one sales rep said something that I found really interesting. They said they were promoted not to their level of incompetence, but rather out of their area of competence. And I think when you apply that to your Christian life, when you look at it through the lens of even your place profile, is when we serve outside of our giftings, outside of, quote, our area of competence, or try and function in the Christian life alone, like those sales reps that got promoted and didn't work collaboratively with the people around them that were competent in certain areas that they weren't. When we try and function outside of our design, outside of our area of competence, which is the business way to say it, our way would be outside of your area of giftedness or ability or passion, that is when you will start to falter. So the root cause might be two things. Maybe you were trying to juggle too many things in your life. You overcommitted, and that one commitment past your level of competence is what caused the balls to drop. Or you are promoted, you commit to something outside of your area of competence or giftedness. And then again, everything starts to drop.
This morning I heard that. So, and I'm really excited about, not excited, interested tomorrow. The person who brought this up today in the Braves organization, he said, I'm just feeling some restlessness. And tomorrow we're actually doing a trip to your alma mater, Sanford in Birmingham. And so I'll be with him in the car up there and back. So for about 6 hours tomorrow to process this with him. And we were talking, and I know him very well. He's been through Place. I know his profile very well. And he's a lot like me. He's artistic. And he said, I know there's some things that I'm doing that I'm probably 2 years away. But you know what my friend was saying? Right now, what he put together and started that has been unbelievable in that organization, it's now needing managing, organizing, perfecting, and improving. And I know him well enough because he's a lot like me. I tell people all the time, I can start anything. I don't know how to manage, organize, improve, or perfect squat, which are not my passions. And so when people get out of what their passions, how they demonstrate it, through, like, I like to challenge, I like to develop and create, I like socializing, I like influencing, I don't like managing, I don't like organizing. And when that happens, yes, they lose their passion and they burn out, which that's a stinker. You lose passion and you're burned out. Yuck.
And that's why in the Place profile, the Place curriculum, that's why we think it's important to look at passions. That's why that really answers the question, why does it matter if you disconnect from your passion? It's because it might be, I think there's two reasons. One, you might be disconnected from your passion. You might feel as though your fire has been extinguished in your life. You don't have the drive, the desire, the energy anymore. Maybe because you overcommitted or you committed outside of your area of competence, or it's because you haven't identified your passion before to know what it is you should be pursuing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So as I was doing some research for this week, it was fascinating to see what some of the causes for burnout were, because we're thinking about, why is it important for people to identify their passions? What does that mean? What are some of the things that can disconnect people from their passions? We're talking about overcommitment and the Peter principle. And it was interesting in my research, those two concepts were two things that throughout many of the different articles that I read all contributed to this thing called burnout. And whether it be people serving as volunteers, serving vocationally, even in their job, how have you seen people experience this thing called burnout in their life? Not necessarily what causes it. We've talked a little bit about that. Maybe what causes it, but also how they experience that.
I think, and you've heard this before, does the chicken or the egg come first? Mm-hmm. Haven't you heard that before? I'm going to give you one that I think causes burnout that I don't think most people think about. Most people think about the external things, right? And that could be true. We've talked about overcommitment to things. Sometimes it can be other people can cause you to burn out because they just seem to take and take and take and they never give. And we only have so much. I've got one that I think that is at the top of the list, that until you gave me the questions for this and I started thinking about it, I'd never thought about it. It's not anything external, Mary. It's internal. This morning in our Bible study, Doug, who was leading the Bible study for us, we're doing the Beatitudes, and he gave us a statement from a lady that had written a book, and I want to read the statement. It's a book called Blessed Are the Peacemakers, Living as Children of God. And here's what she said. If most of us are honest with ourselves, we know that there are many ways in which our hearts are not at peace. We are wounded, insecure, resentful, and lonely. And this restlessness within us causes us to anxiously defend our actions and opinions, to control others, and to seek after their love and praise at all costs. I believe one of the major causes of burnout is not overcommitment, but internal things that are going on inside of us, like loneliness. Now, there are things that may be causing that externally, like bitterness. There may be people or things that are causing us to be bitter in life, frustration, anger, anxiety, fear. Those are things that are going on inside. But boy, if they stay in there, it doesn't matter. You could have said, why can't I used to be able to go and go and go. Why am I so tired now? I think a lot of our burnout is not outwardly causing us to burn out. It's not always commitments, but it is things going on in our heart. And then we go back in the place curriculum where passion originates. Above all else, guard your what?
Heart.
Your heart, your passion. And when our heart isn't guarded with things like fear, anxiety, bitterness, resentfulness, those type things that are internal, the external working out is burnout. And so I don't think most people look at burnout as things like fear, anxiety, loneliness, resentment. I think they always, at least I have, looked at it, okay, where am I giving my time to that just exhausts me because I just live in it all the time. But all those things cause things to happen inside of us.
That is such an interesting insight because, like you said, when you consider burnout, you think of overcommitment because of external things on your calendar, things that you have to go and do. But burnout can also be an overcommitment to thoughts and emotions that are exhausting your soul and your mind because you keep taking these pathways in your mind that are exhausting you, that are causing fear to build up, that are causing anxiety to build up, that they're overcommitting your soul to something that doesn't feed your soul and energize your soul, but rather depletes it and steals its energy, steals its joy. And it's a great way to think about what causes burnout because it's not just external things that can cause your fire to be extinguished. It's the thoughts that you allow your mind to dwell on and your heart to go to.
Philippians 4:8. And how many times have I done a place coaching session and I've asked the person to write down this verse and to memorize it? Whatever is right, whatever is true, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, let your mind dwell on these things. Our mind and our heart is so often where we lose our passion that doesn't give us the zeal to do all those things that may be on our calendar that we have to do.
Okay, so to wrap up our conversation, I think we've hit a lot of interesting things that people can reflect on further. I have two questions for you. And the first one is for the individual listening. How can knowing who you are protect you from burnout and overcommitment?
Well, first of all, if you know who you are, you know the things, let's go to what I was talking about, your heart and your mind. You know the things that could possibly trigger those. So maybe you have to memorize scripture. If you're fearful about things, then maybe you have to memorize scripture that deal with those fearful things. If you know who you are, I know what my proclivity in most things that I do in my life. And when they get to the management stage, then I've got to find some people to help me. I'm like right now, we're trying to figure out some things on social media. We had a meeting today about it. I'm really energized to figure it out. It's new for me. But I promise you, what we looked at a little video today about a system, I know that I'd never have the stick-to-itiveness. So part of knowing yourself is knowing where you will be energized and where you will be de-energized, where you will flourish and where you will flounder. But if you don't know who you are or you don't take the time to figure that out, then you may be burned out a lot because you keep going to areas that you get yourself into. People want you in these areas. Maybe they think you'll be good at something. But knowing yourself tells you where those pitfalls are, and you can say, okay, God, what do I need to avoid them?
I consider Matthew 5:37 when Jesus tells us to let our yes be yes and our no be no. When you know who you are, when you know your tendencies, when you know where you will flourish and where you will flounder, it helps you to more quickly attribute what might be causing your burnout, what might be causing those internal feelings. But it also helps you to confidently discern and evaluate opportunities that you are already a part of, that you've already committed to, or possible new commitments. And it helps you to evaluate, should this be my yes and should this be my no? How can I make an informed decision about what my yes is and what my no is? Not just what it is, but what it should be and ought to be based off of how I'm designed. If we are to let our yes be yes and our no be no, how can we inform where we will flourish and where we will flounder, to let our yes be where we will flourish and our no be where we will flounder if we don't know ourselves and our area of competence, to quote the sales rep from the study. My last question for you, and this is for that of a leader listening, somebody with influence over people, leading a group of people. How can knowing who you are help you protect the people that you are leading or influencing from experiencing that kind of burnout and overcommitment?
Real simple. Help them know who they are. That's why we do Place, is to resource churches to help those leaders teach others who they are so that they won't, let's take this topic, burnout, they won't experience burnout. And again, we believe it starts by knowing who you are, knowing these very things that we're talking about in this episode. So where does a leader start? This is my commercial, utilizing Place. I know that we don't do these podcasts, to just say, hey, buy our resources, but it does start by knowing who you are and knowing what your strengths are, what your liabilities are, knowing what fuels you, what doesn't fuel you, knowing what triggers you internally that can wear you out, that cause you to be passionateless, burned out about anything. Know who you are. And leaders help others know. And that, I don't know, and I think this is one of the sad things for me, is that I watch a lot of leaders that they want to know stuff for themselves or people, but they don't have a burning desire to help other people know what helped them. And that sometimes frustrates me. It saddens me. I want to use the word irritates me, but it also drives me to keep trying to find ways to help leaders, to help people that they lead, not experience things like this.
I think as a leader, it's also your responsibility to know the people that you're leading in the same way that it's the responsibility of a shepherd to know the flock that he's protecting. And as a leader, it is your responsibility to not just know your people, but to help your people know themselves so that you can protect them from overcommitment. You can protect them from burnout. You can protect them, and you can also protect yourself from putting them in an area that's outside of their area of competence or their area of giftedness or passion or ability. And I think that is what you were talking about, is inviting other people into what you are learning as a leader, because it's not just for you to know them, but also for the people you lead to know themselves, so that you can equip them and facilitate the opportunity for them to be the best version of themselves that they can be for your team, in a church's case, for the other people in that flock of that congregation. And even our trainings and our workshops, we've worked with a lot of churches where we've gotten the opportunity to take their whole staff through the place curriculum so that not just their leader can know them, but so they can know each other. And that's why settings like our trainings that we have here once a month are so valuable. And they're valuable for the leader to take it, to be energized, and to bring it back to their people. But it also is an opportunity for you to take your whole staff, your whole flock that you're shepherding as a leader, bring them in so that you can protect them by giving them information that they can use to protect themselves. And not just to protect themselves, but to be the person that the Lord created them to be the most effective and fulfilled in the place that the Lord has called them to serve.
That's good. That's good.
That is all the time that we have for today. We hope this conversation was encouraging to you, that it got you thinking about some of the things that might be burning you out, that might be extinguishing your passion or the fire that you have in your soul, whether it's because of external commitments in your life or internal thoughts that your mind is committing to that you don't even realize are burning you out. This conversation was insightful to you. If it was encouraging, make sure you share it with a friend. And if you are a leader and you're interested in caring for the people that you have been entrusted with, we want to be able to help you by helping them discover who they are through our trainings, our curriculum, and our workshops that we host here. We'll give you information in the description so that you can find out how to learn more about those opportunities. Thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to see you back here next week.